Today, we're going to be at Hendersonville Memory Gardens in Hendersonville, Tennessee. We're going to be looking for the graves of Johnny and June Carter Cash, as well as other family members. And this would include the lady known as the mother of country music, Maybelle Carter, which is June's mother. We'll go inside and see if they got a map or can help us out with directions on how to find the grave. As we go inside, they do show me a room that is dedicated to some of the country music stars that are buried there. But I inserted a picture of what they have on the hall. As you enter, it's dedicated to Johnny and June Carter Cash, and it's got so much information that I'll discuss some of that as we walk along in the cemetery. Now we'll head on out to the gravesite. And as we're walking down the sidewalk, getting closer to the graves, I'd like to mention that several things that I learned from that write-up on the hall that they had in them in the funeral home was that three people that were noteworthy, that were pallbearers that may be of interest to you, was that Randy Scruggs, that's Earl Scruggs' son, was one of the pallbearers. So was Larry Gatlin, which was a real good friend of Johnny's. And another very good friend of Johnny's, but also his ex-son-in-law, Marty Stewart, was one of the pallbearers. Another thing that was of interest on the write-up was about this black bench here that serves as a headstone for Johnny and June. And the man there at the funeral home, Mr. Gregory, is the one that had this done and donated as he became friends of Johnny and June's when he met him in Jamaica at their home there. And it's just a very interesting black marble bench that's got writing on both sides, so we'll take a little bit closer look at that too. The bench has, a bug almost got me there, so we'll take a look closer at the bench again. And it has 2003 on it, which is the year both Johnny and June passed away. It also has on the back there a writing which Johnny Cash had wrote, and it says, "Happiness is being at peace, being with loved ones, being comfortable, but most of all, it's having those loved ones." And it's signed Johnny Cash there on the back. But we're going to take a closer look, and it's very fitting because Johnny Cash does have loved ones around him in a lot of places here at this cemetery. Someone just came up to the gravesite of Johnny and June, and so we'll give them some time there, and we'll come back and look at theirs a little bit more. But we'll head on down to the Sermon on the Mount section of the cemetery, as it's called, and you see here with the hedges around it, because there's some family members down there that we can look at while the other people are visiting Johnny and June's grave. And the first one we want to look at is there's a section that's got two sidewalks, and we'll take the sidewalk on the left, and you'll come down from the sculpture of Jesus, and you'll see Ray Cash and Carrie Cash's graves. And this is Johnny's mother and father, and I'm sorry I didn't have a wet wipe with me so I could have cleaned off his dad's grave a little bit better. But they were farmers or sharecroppers in Arkansas, and that's where Johnny Cash was born, and they lived for a good long while. Johnny's mother, Carrie, like 2 days being 87 years old when she passed away, and his dad, Ray, was 86 when he passed away. And another noted thing is that they couldn't agree on Johnny's name when he was born, because his mother liked the name John, his dad liked the name Ray, so they ended up just giving him the initials JR, and that's what would appear on his birth certificate and stay that way until Johnny Cash joined the Air Force, and they would not accept just initials as a name, so he ended up becoming John R. Cash at that stage. He still didn't get the middle name of Ray. Next, we'll move over to the right side of the sidewalk there, and we'll head up to some graves that are located 3 rows down from the the edge of that shrub that you see there on the left. And this is going to be part of the Carter family section. This is going to be June's sister, Helen, and she was part of the group Mother Maybelle and the Carter sisters, along with June and Anita, of course. And she is also noted as a songwriter and would write songs for people such as the Louvin brothers, Waylon Jennings, and of course her brother-in-law, Johnny Cash. So we'll take a look there at Helen's and her family's grave. And Helen is in the middle of her part of the graves there. On her left-hand side is her son Kenneth, and on the right-hand side of her is buried her husband Glenn. Helen's son Kenneth was just 16 when he died in an automobile accident, but he was on his way to becoming a well-known songwriter too, I feel, as one of his songs he wrote was called Sing a Traveling Song, and it would be on one of Johnny Cash's albums. Next, there is her husband, Glenn. And beside Glenn is another one of their sons. It's David. David was 65 when he passed away, and he also was a musician, and he would perform with the Carter family as well as Johnny Cash, just to name a couple that he did perform with as a musician. Now we'll head on back up to Johnny and June's grave. As we approach the graves and seeing these flowers, it reminds me of something else that was written in the picture thing in the funeral home, and it was that Johnny, of course, being acquainted with a local florist and everything, and when he died, the florist there did a man-sized wreath for Johnny, but he also had commented on a memory that he had, and it was that Johnny Cash had called him when his son was born, and he wanted him to do 2-inch deep rose petals all up and down his driveway and on his walk for when he would bring June and the baby home. So I thought that was a kind of interesting bit. You also see that somebody has left a dollar with rocks holding it down and everything. You usually see the coins, but not so much the dollars. But it's also got a verse on his and June's, and it's the same verse that you see from this picture that I took years ago before they enlarged the writing and added the sidewalk and the border around the graves. Johnny Cash would win over a dozen Grammy Awards. He also was inducted into the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, and also the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. And I mustn't forget that Johnny Cash has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He is buried, of course, next to his wife, June Carter Cash, and they got married in 1968, and they were married for 35 years at the time of her death. June, like Johnny, was not only a singer but a songwriter, and both of them would also, you'd see them on like TV movies such as Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and Little House on the Prairie, and Columbo, and shows like that. So they did a lot of things together. One of June's songs that she co-wrote with Merle Kilgore would become a very well-known country music hit. It was first recorded by her sister Anita, but it only became the great hit when her husband would record it, and that would become his signature song. It's called Ring of Fire. At the bench on the front side of it, it has Cash Carter, Walk the Line, which was a Johnny Cash song, and it also has Wildwood Flower, which the Carter family has always sang is their signature song. Next, we're looking at the gravesite of her mother and father, Ezra and Maybelle Carter. Ezra was a manager for the original Carter family, and of course Maybelle Carter was in that group as well as later on singing with her daughters. The original Carter family would also be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Next to Mother Maybelle is the grave of one of her daughters, Anita Carter, and of course that would make her the sister to June. And next we'll look at the row just below Johnny and June's grave to see what family members are buried there. The first one we're going to come up on is a Yates, and it's the grave of Dr. Harry Yates, which is the brother-in-law to Johnny Cash. He married Johnny's youngest sister, Joanne Cash Yates, and as of this date, she still has not passed away, so this will be her final resting place when that does happen. And then next to her, we're going to be looking at the grave of Rosanna Nix Adams. She went by Rosie. She was June Carter's daughter by her second marriage, and Rosie would end up dying from carbon monoxide poisoning from her tour bus in Clarksville, Tennessee. And then next we'll be looking at Johnny Cash's sister's grave, and she managed a lot of Johnny's affairs that he had going on. And next to her, I will look at just the tip of another grave that I didn't take a full view of. It is the grave of Reba's son, Ricky Burleson. Before leaving the cemetery, headed to see if we can find where the home was located for June and Johnny Cash, I'll mention a couple more things. June and Johnny would win Grammys for two of their songs they sang together. That was Jackson and If I Were a Carpenter. Johnny would also receive a Grammy as for the Lifetime Achievement Award. And the original Carter family also received that award and was inducted into the Bluegrass Hall of Fame. On the way to see where Johnny and June's home had once stood, I noticed a sign that has Johnny Cash on it, so had to stop and take a look at it. It has a lot of interesting facts on it. Some I knew about Johnny Cash, some I did not. I won't take the time because it would take too long to read it all. But a couple of things that might interest you. It said that on the sign that Johnny first started recording for Sun Records in Memphis. And in 1967 on Caudill Drive, which is just a little ways up the road from here, he saw an unfinished house and he convinced the owner to finish it and sell it to him. And when Johnny and June got married in 1968, they would move into this house and live there until the time of their death. Also, to the left, it shows a building, and this I had no idea about, that Johnny and June in 1969 bought the place called Plantation Dinner Theater, and they would turn it into a recording studio and office for the House of Cash Music Publishing Company. I peeped inside, and on one of the walls there's a mural of Johnny and June that I inserted there. This is all that remains of Johnny and June Carter Cash's house. It's the rock foundation and the rock pathways and stuff like that. It was sold in 2006 to Barry Gibbs of the Bee Gees, and in 2007 when he was renovating it, it had caught on fire and burned completely up. There's a sign on the gatehouse that tells it was the Cash home, and we get a small glimpse as I look over the fence of a building, and I read somewhere that they had one little apartment type thing that did survive it. I'd like to say thanks for watching my video, and see you soon.